Some in government cautious about whether a charge would encourage people to leave or embed them further in state accommodation. Refugees who remain in direct provision after being given permission to stay in Ireland could be charged rent as part of an overhaul being planned by the government, which is very good because if they're granting them stay, it's only fair that they give them working permit, which they will do because based on the new changes, once you can get your working permit from industry, enterprise, or trade organizations, then the Justice Department will grant you the visa. So it's only fair that they charge them because by charging them for those accommodation, it will help them to sit up and contribute their own part to that country. It will equally help this country in building more of such accommodations so that they will be able to reach out to the 14,000 Irish people that are having accommodation issues. There were 5,644 people with the permission to live and work in the country in direct provision at the end of last month. So apparently the new changes have already started because they said that there are 5,644 people with permission to live and work in the country in direct provision at the end of last month. So imagine that these 5,644 people, at least 5,000 of them are working. Imagine the tax they will be paying into Ireland's treasury. That will go a long way in helping Ireland to generate money to be able to put such money into development and to the growth of that country. Department of Integration, the figure remains stubbornly high despite a significant increase in those living state accommodation. Now, senior coalition figures say the imposition of rent or of another charge is being considered. However, any move would have to overcome concerns with some in government cautious about whether a charge will encourage people to leave or embed them further to stay in state accommodation. So, the truth of the matter is that to charge them is good if they are working, they are earning money. Because then if they want to stay, they will be paying for their accommodation, and if they don't want to stay, they can go and look for accommodation elsewhere. So this accommodation can equally be given to people who can't afford it. Yes. Now, senior coalition figures said that these figures is being considered, and these new decisions whether to charge people or not is equally being considered, which at the end of the day is only reasonable to consider it, because if people are working, they should be able to pay for that accommodation. And if they don't want to stay to pay, they can go and look for another accommodation. While people that can't afford it can be given such spaces. One source warned charging rent might mean someone feels more entitled to stay. Okay, which is not bad. If they are charging and somebody wants to stay, then it have to be useful to himself and to the country. That is just the truth. Sources believe the option is favored by Taosi Simon Harris, who referred to the number of people in this category frequently last week. Nearly 1,200 people with permission to remain have left state accommodation in the first 3 months of the year, which is wonderful. So, last week, nearly 1,200 people with permission to remain have left state accommodation in the first 3 months of this year. That's good. Imagine the space that 1,200 people are occupying. If they are living, this space can be given to other people who cannot afford it. Compared with 733 in 2022 and 2,002 last year, the issue is expected to be debated during a review of entitlements for those in the asylum system due in 6 weeks. So, this is a fair deal. If you are given stay and to work, it's only fair that if you're already living in state accommodation, from the time you start earning money, you should be paying for those spaces you are occupying. They do it in other countries. Yes, that when you are an asylum seeker, from the moment you start working, you pay a certain amount. Even if you go outside to rent the same space of house you are occupying at the government accommodation, you will even pay more than what you are paying to the government. That is the truth. Yes. So, in as much as this is going to be debated, at the end of the day, common sense will tell you that they are going to pass it because it's only being fair. that people who can afford it should pay, so that if they don't want, they can go and look for accommodation. And by vacating that accommodation, if they don't want to pay, the government will have more space. Thereby, the government should be able then to give it to people who cannot afford to pay. Or the government can equally give it to people who can pay, and it will equally generate money for the government, because governments need things that will generate them money. So if these people are granted the right to stay and work in Ireland, it's only normal that they should go and work, pay for those accommodations if they want to remain there. If they don't want, they should go and look for accommodation elsewhere, and they should do their part to contribute to that country, because that country have given them something. They should try as much as possible to contribute back to that country, because they have given them the right to stay and to work in that country, which is going to help them and their families in their home countries a long way.